So the British Library has received funding from the IPC in two batches. Initially to develop the prototype Twitter bank. We had this idea, we thought it's interesting and worth exploring. So last GA, we completed the prototype, and I reported on that work. And then there was a great interest from members wishing to be able to have, to evaluate and have some hands-on experience with the tool. So we submitted a consecutive funding request to the IPC to ask for some follow-up funding to make sure to develop an evaluation version so that more members could have a go with it, if you like. So I think just a bit of background. The idea was based on the observation. It was, it's Maureen Pennock, who used to be my team, and some of you who know. It's her idea, so the credit of the idea should go to her. And it's based on the observation that the selection process is done by a number of curators, and it's very expensive, it's time-consuming, and also it doesn't scale up. And if something event happens suddenly, someone dies on us, someone important dies on us, or a natural disaster, some sort of unexpected event taking place.
Sorry about that.
I'm just arrived, which gives me a sense of relief, as you have noticed. And also we have received feedback from researchers we work with, saying, your special collections, your selection is all good and fine, but it presents your sort of top-down view. How about the individuals? How about people, active on the social network and all that? So we thought, okay, so maybe we could leverage the power of the crowd to help with the selection process to select website for archiving. So the idea is that people share things on Twitter. They point other people to interesting pages they have looked at, or they want people to look at certain pages of of interest. So the idea is that we look for those those feeds, and extract out the URL and expand those, and then present those to the curators so that they can make an assessment whether that's worth including in the topical or whatever selection or collection they're setting up. So the Twitter bank application allows the curator, we're going to go through the user interface as well. So the Twitter bank application allows the curators to, I'm sorry, I apologize for the typo, it was 11 p.m. last night. Allows curators to set up web collections, and so that you can associate the relevant URLs with your theme, and then extract the URLs and expand those. So we think this is not meant to replace the current manual or curatorial intellectual process of selecting websites, but it's more like providing some sort of a complementary mechanism so that you might, for URLs you might normally not notice. As I explained, there are two phases of the project. The current phase, when we start looking at the user interface, you'd notice it's not as polished, but that's okay because it wasn't the intention or the goal of the project. The project had two strands of activities. One is to do development work so that we can come up with a version of the application that is stable enough to be set up as a separate web service to support evaluation. And the evaluation process itself was part of the project too. So the deliverables included the development, the evaluation version of the Twitter bank itself, the documentations, the web service, deployment of Twitter Vein as a web service to enable evaluation, and the curators doing the evaluation and the final report of the project. I think there's a bit of a detail of how Twitter Vein works. The components diagram shows how different service components of the application interact and talk to each other. So we saw a presentation from Julianne yesterday. I think very quickly you notice similarities between the two, but we can discuss that a bit later. But one key difference here is that they don't use the Twitter API and they do the matching of tweets and based on search terms themselves. But we don't do that. We stream the tweets directly from Twitter for analysis, and as I explained a bit earlier, so we expand the shortened URLs in the tweets and assign these back to the collections defined by the curators. So the application has three major components. So there's the tweet view. So that's the curator interface where collections can be set up using search terms. You can define that, and also define the time period where within which you would like to receive Twitter feeds. And also there's a series of reports, which brings back the URLs and expands them, and we can look at them. We'll spend some time going through the user interface. And in the background, there's also the tweet stream agent. That streams tweets from Twitter and stores the data for analysis. So they also filter use the search terms to filter tweets stream. There's also the admin interface where you can configure and control the tweet stream. For example, you can define the number of tweets each time you process as a batch. And there's also the tweet analyzer that runs periodically. It basically does the expansion of the shortened URLs using the bit.ly URL expansion service, and then resolve them to the collections set up by the curators. I would like to emphasize again, this is not a production version. This is just the evaluation version. The purpose of doing this really is to make sure that we are certain about the validity of this approach, and also to use this to gain people's feedback. It's really still like a prototype, and we want to be very sure before we invest more effort into this. So the source code, the binaries, and all the documentation, they're openly available on GitHub. So the URL is there. Go have a look if you're interested. And there's a user manual. There's also the installation guide and an admin manual. I'll say a little bit more about how the evaluation was done. So we put together a common template asking curators a series of questions. And we asked them to return the template with comments, assessment, and observations. I think in total there were 6 curators involved from 3 IPC institutions. So 2 curators from the National Library of New Zealand, a couple from the BNF, and Library of Congress, Nicholas Clark and Abby Grocki, and also Nicola, our web archivist. She uses the Twitter Vein at the moment just to complement whatever selection or whatever collection we're running. So I'll probably ask her to say a few words about her experience later on. And also, I'm not going to cover the admin interface today, but Andy is here. So for those who are interested, Andy is happy to show you that too. So we have a almost 4 weeks period of evaluation, so that people had enough time to set up a collection, to monitor, the number of the number and types of URLs returned by Twitter. Some of these feedback was actually fixed and addressed, implemented within the project resource. I think the general conclusion was that it's potentially useful, but especially for event-based collections, and could potentially reduce the time for selection over a longer period of time. For example, if you're running an election over a couple of months, this was seen as something really useful. And also we have found that the URLs discovered by Twitter seem to point to certain types of websites or pages, mostly news sites or online periodics. And also the curator's feedback is that only between 20 and 30% of the URLs discovered by Twitter they would include in the collections. We have also noticed some, URLs leading to spam sites. I think I can probably show you an example as well. So I have a set of points for discussions which we're going to cover later on. I think now it's probably a good time to go and have a look at. Oh, sorry. Have a look at the application itself. So how many of you have had a look at this before you came here? Hands up. Okay, thank you. So not everybody. That's fine. And so those who have had a look, I may call up on your help to tell people your experience, because this is supposed to be a workshop. It's not me talking at you. I think that would be counterproductive. So this is the front page of the tweet view, the curator interface. So it's a very simple website application, if you look at it. So the starting point would be the collection tab, the page. So you will see that there are a number of collections in there already. I think a new one. I think this is a new one. Probably Hugo. Thank you, Hugo. That's not me. So this is where you define and set up a collection with a topical collection, or event-based collection of your interest. So you can give it a name. You can describe, putting a paragraph to describe what this collection is about. And you can define a start and end date. And then there is a search term text box where you can put in the search terms which you use to ask from Twitter the relevant tweets. It doesn't matter if you use or not use hashtag, it's just removed anyway. So there's actually a very simplistic help page. Some of the important tips and guidelines are actually entered here. Myself personally, or the developer who did this, we were not really experienced in using the application as such. I think, but we have noticed that. I think this is something which applies in general. If you want to get back, when you conduct the search term you use, and the precision and recall related to the results really depends on how you design the query, and that applies here as well. So if you use a very broad term, say for example news, you probably put in loads and loads of tweets, but then the system has to work harder and find do more processing to find what's relevant. But if you use a very narrow term, you probably have better precision, but then recall wouldn't be, you wouldn't get as many results as you would have hoped. So where to find the balance, I don't know. I don't know what's the best to use, and sometimes I look at some of the collections and their search terms, I think, oh, that seems really quite broad, but actually, if you look at the results, they're not that bad. So what we could do is to have a look at some of the collections set up here. I know this one is set by Hugo, So let's have a look at the search terms. So this is supposed to, this started yesterday, and so it's ending on the 12th of May. I think it's related to the, the coronation of the Dutch king. And personally, I think these search terms are very precise, and it should cover quite a wide range. We can go back and look at the report later on. So, and also there is opportunity to change the search terms while a collection is running. So if you monitor the results returned by Twittering, and you notice that it's not working as you expect, you could delete or add search terms from here. One very important feature or restriction you need to be aware of is that because we use the Twitter API, it doesn't go back to fetch historical tweets. So whatever comes in starts from the point of time you set up the collection. So if you use the date range which went back in time, you won't pick up Twitter feeds from the past. I think that's something that can be seen as a limitation. And also, what I forgot to say is that the Twitter ban really, it doesn't archive tweets, which we do have the feeds, but we're not archiving. This is not about archiving Twitter. So this is how you set up a collection or change the definition, key search terms of your collection. And then there's a reports tab. So here you have a few options. So you could look at each, select a collection you have set up. For example, if we take who goes, and there are report types, you can look at top domains, the top URLs, and top URL which has been retweeted. So you can, and also you can filter certain URLs. For example, if you're interested in a particular URL or particular domain, for example, if we're only interested in the .uk domain, we probably should do it there. And let's have a look to see if Hugo's collection has yielded any results. So we have 1,792 tweets from 159 domains. I think what we need to do here, Nicola, are you supposed to see the URLs here as well? Yes, you do.
Yes, the link.
Yeah, so this for some reason is not resolving. It does happen sometimes. So it's probably need to look at
some of the processing happens
in the background.
here.
So okay, we'll probably go back and look at an older collection. Or is it just kind of stuff? Let's go that way. Let's have a look at Nicola's, one of Nicola's. Nicola, which one should we use? Thatcher? Yeah, so this, she died on us a few weeks ago, and we started a focus scroll collection around her death. And Nicola is just using this as a complementary tool to the curatorial selection. So again, we look at the top URLs and we'll see what. I don't think that's where you go. Is it that? I don't think that's where you go. Probably have a look at the other options here. So tweets, summary by collection. And that's where I usually go have a look at. There's nothing expanded here. It's a bit weird. I thought some of these were expanded when I looked at it last time.
I'll go in the back. You can have a look at what section it's being.
Okay, we'll have Any other collection which you set up, Nicola? The non-printed request?
No, this isn't the event.
Is that there?
Leave the one to this time.
On the disability
Okay, well, I know about this one, the church Christchurch earthquake anniversary. It's one of the New Zealand's. So this is another way to look at the expanded URLs and is the associated tweets. So from which the URL was extracted, and also who the name of the tweeter. No, it's not Twitter and tweeter. So this is Twitter. Let's see. Then you click on the URL to see if they are relevant. Again, this is a newspaper page. You get quite a bit of surprises sometimes, I think. So this is how you look at a report. So for this small collection, there were like 40 URLs expanded, and I think the New Zealand, the curator from New Zealand said there was about 20% among these URLs that they would include in the seed list, if you like. So let's go back to the report tab. There's also a summary table, summary report, where you can see the top URL per collection. So that's the sort of per collection, they're showing you the top one expanded URL, but I see some non-expanded ones here. Something probably went wrong there with the expansion.
One of the reasons it's so good is you can get blocked like it.
They have a cap, the cap on the number of URLs you process. So that's actually one of the weak points of this application, which I included in the points for this discussion. I probably want to show you that this sometimes, let's have a look at this one. Oh, Benedict. I think I tend to look at URLs. I find them more useful, domains, unless you want to capture the entire website or the content hosted under that. So again, almost without exception, you see a predominance of news sites. So this is a relevant URL. Next one. So I think you get an idea of how this works now. Let's go back to the report and pick on another collection where I think I've noticed a spam page. So this collection, I think it's only set up for it. The time scale for Twitter to pick up tweets was about half day. It's how you said it, I think. So it didn't go back to fetch historical feeds, and then also the time span is about half day. So and also during that period of time, I think the system was offline for a couple of hours as well. So all that added together, so we managed to pick up 791 tweets, and also I think the sort of key terms and the collection itself is kind of it's a narrow topic as well. 2 URLs was expanded. Needless to say that this looks like a porn site. I don't know what triggered it, how, what you did, what, what's the reason that it was picked up. So then there is a possibility to look at the tweets which was collected by the system used for analysis. And Nicola, is it possible, is this the only page you can see this? Is there a way to see more?
If you have a look at it, do you want to actually expand the records?
Yeah, so there's like quite a lot in the system, right? And how do I see more? I mean, I seem not to be able to move beyond anything, apart from this mouse over thing, unless there's a browser dependency which is preventing me of seeing anything. Okay, I have to be honest with you, I have not looked at this extensively. I think this is just showing you, I suspect that Terry has just, the developer has only given us, has picked up the top 10 or something. Yeah, it looks like it. Just to give you a flavor of, the tweets which came in. But I suspect this is either yes, I think it's the most recent, sort of last 10 which came in, so you have an idea. And also, I think, I remember discussing this with him, what we do with the Twitter you have collected, and whether you keep or sort of discard everything, or you keep a portion of them, those only you have used to expand URL, or everything. So I think this is about it. This is the last 10. I guess really, there's not much more to say. Sort of about the user interface. I think there's some sort of a graphical view somewhere, which I'm probably just tells you, gives an overview of how many tweets when came in over time period you defined for a collection. Just having difficulty loading. Oh, there it is. So you can have a look at the summary of the collection and the number of tweets which have pulled in. So this is a collection, I think, set up by a curator at the BNF, Anik. I think this is Anik's collection. And look at the number of tweets you have received in last week, last month, and last year. So I think it looks nice, but I don't know if how useful that is myself. I think this is about it. Questions? Yes?
Well, it's not a question, it's a comment.
Sure.
Well, I don't know if the distribution per day is really useful, but anyway, it's useful to compare at least those amount of tweets received from collections to collection. Because obviously this was one of the biggest collections in terms of tweets, and it's given us an idea of the importance of this topic on Twitter.
Can you tell me, because I don't understand that.
Yes,
what it is about?
It's the demonstrations against gay marriage. Marriage has been voted in France, where the last vote was this week, and there was a huge number of tweets on this topic.
Okay.
So it's really more important on Twitter than the war in Mali.
Yeah. Okay, that's the other collection she set up, I think. Yeah. Yeah, but I think this. When did it? It stopped at some point.
It's quite interesting.
itself.
Yes.
Yes.
For those persons.
Yeah. So that gives you a sort of an overview of what you have collected or what you got in. So are there any questions, I mean, specifically about the user interface? Any comments? Those who have used this, what's your general feeling? Hugo, yeah?
Yeah, to me it was still a little bit confusing from time to time. For example, when I wanted to see what came out of the collection that I created, I went to the collections link, and then from there you cannot get to the report. And then I checked the user guide and said, okay, go to the report. So yeah, I think it can be streamlined a bit in terms of the user interface and
Yeah, definitely.
functionality. But
Yeah. I mean, there's, I think, quite a bit to be done.
yeah,
Except for the user interface.
but yeah, in general, I mean, defining the collection itself, it was quite straightforward. So I think I see a lot of potential in this tool.
So are you going to be actually going back into it and look at your collection?
Yeah, actually I went to, I mean, yeah, every week, one day a week I went to the National Library, and then I often talk to the collection, people at the collections department at Select Websites, and I just want to show it and
Yeah.
ask what they, because they're doing some testing with event harvesting and also about
Yeah.
this.
They're doing
application.
selection around the,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I think it would be useful to talk to them and see, okay, how do you think this is useful, and does it include the
Yeah.
same sites that do ours? And one thing which could be interesting would be like an export function or something that you can, I don't know if it's there already and I missed it, or maybe
It's not there. In prototype, we actually exported the URLs and hooked it into our selection tool. And that can be done, but not in this evaluation, because that's very specific to our own workflow. But the idea is that you actually present this, export this out, and present this in whatever selection tool curators are using.
Yeah.
There's that bit of integration would make it easier.
Okay, yeah.
Anybody else? Vurnik?
Yeah, I think I've sent you some small things, also concerning users, there's like the date trigger and all this.
Yeah.
I want to pay to it, so yeah, that's.
But when you set up the collection, you didn't realize that you couldn't go back to get
No,
historical.
that's also something I think should maybe be mentioned.
Yeah, we
because I was not aware that I should have read my new one.
That's a question. Actually, I don't know myself. I don't think we made it very obvious. No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Also, could you just show me once more how did you get the graphs of the trees? Was it in your reports?
I think it's here,
Yeah.
and then you go into,
You should click on that. Yeah.
and if you click on the tweets, you get an overview of how, you know, there's a distribution of the relevant Twitter feeds.
Yeah.
And you click on the URLs, and you see the URLs extracted from the tweets, and then you see the expanded URLs. There's a difference between the expanded and the number of URLs. So this is the total number of URLs unexpanded, extracted from the relevant Twitter feeds, and then you have the expanded, which is a smaller number. The reason for that is this column, the number of URLs included, so some of these are still not processed. And also we have to, because of the Bit.ly expansion service has a limitation on the numbers, so this would always lag behind. And also some just don't get, some URLs don't end up getting expanded. And things go wrong, they can't be resolved, and so there is actually, at the end of this, you actually can see, and sometimes we can't associate a tweet back, we can't associate that with a topic or a collection. So you end up with this unknown, just a bit of, a bucket for things went wrong or we don't know how to deal with. I mean, we could obviously hide that, but for the purpose of this evaluation, we thought it was actually better to let people see this and have a comparison of the sort of portion of URLs you can expand and those you cannot.
One question.
Yeah?
if I change my collection settings, will they be will it start collecting more from the time? I mean, for
Yeah.
instance, my collection, as you mentioned, was very short.
Yeah, if you change the date, shall I do that now?
Yeah.
We'll change the date to, and we probably can go back at the end of the session.
Yes.
It's running. And are we okay in terms of the background? If I change the date to a future date, and it should, in theory, it should start collecting. Oops. Okay.
And I can add new terms, right?
Yeah, do you want to add any new terms?
No, it's just, yeah, we'll try it out first so that, to see if we add it to the list, right?
Snake?
Yeah, snake, yeah.
This is about some unexplainable obsession about exotic food, I think, weird food.
So
What else?
This crawly creepers one called the scorpion.
I can't think of anything else.
Spider.
Clement, I'm looking at you. You're French.
Wow, it's an front and snake.
That's fine enough, yeah. Let's not turn this into a different workshop. So we'll come back and look at this again at the end of the workshop. So that's saved. Anybody? Sabine?
Does it matter whether you write more than one term?
You can use.
You put
So-
one for one.
No, so I think you can, so when you set up we're editing a collection now, but when you set up a collection, a new one, if you have a topic, we can set up one now. If you can so where when you add a new collection, I think there's so here you can use a comma separated list to key in multiple key terms. So do you want to start one? We can have a look. Anyone want to start? It's probably a good idea. Let's start another one and go back.
We know that we've been tweeting about IPC, so why not make one?
Okay.
So, okay, let's have some keywords.
And tweet away.
Has anyone been tweeting about this? I hope not.
Yeah.
You have.
So we can tweet.
Start date, will have to be today. End date. Yeah?
Yeah. So, maybe
Search terms.
IPC 15.
IPC Global Pen.
Sorry. I just said comma separated and then I didn't.
Maybe net preserve.
Andy Jackson.
No missing column.
Mistake between searching
Andy, have I spelled that correctly?
I think so. I can't see it very well.
Yeah,
I
that's
think you did.
And someone said Twitter name. Yep. Yeah, please start tweeting about it. And what else? I can't spell it. Someone J-U-J.
No, LGU.
J-U.
B. L. J.
Thank you. This is a workshop, right?
Memento.
Oh yeah, that's probably a good idea. Any keywords? Any more keywords? Digital translation? Would that be anything? Probably not. that sensible? I think that's probably okay, yeah, just for the sake of this. Yeah, shall I just so this is how you add it. It should be on the top, isn't it? Okay. So I think I've done my thing, and we'll go back and look at the collections later on, and I'll have a few points for discussion. I really would like us to have a discussion here. So so yesterday when Julianne was presenting a very similar tool, obviously, the Acomem tool is different, but there are similarities. So it doesn't use the Twitter API because it's unreliable, will lead to spam, and also they are worried about the longevity of that service. So they do the matching and crawling or collecting, capturing Twitter feeds themselves. Another big difference is that the tool, Julianne's tool, is also a tool to archive Twitter feeds. We pick up Twitter feeds, but the purpose of this is not archiving. One of the issues I picked up, I think, is the cost-benefit ratio, i.e., if you think that in general, between 11.7 and 20% of Twitter feeds would include an URL. So you extract that out and you expand it, and then the curator's evaluation tells us it's between 20 and 30%, which eventually ended up in a special collection or in a collection. And then along the path, we lose some as well. We have also restrictions. The Bitly don't want us to, put a cap on the numbers, and also some goes wrong. So in the end, my feeling is that you do so much computation in the background, and you gain a very little, a very small number of URLs. So to me, I would think this is a very large amount of labor or computation and very little gain. But I may be wrong about this, and if it points, it helps you to discover URLs you never think of, and they are banned sort of on the mark and relevant to your collection, then maybe it's worth it. This is just a question. Don't know. And there's the spam and that sort of URLs, irrelevant URLs, that issue we saw just now. And we mentioned the Bitly URL expansion service. That's been having restrictions. I think that's one of the weak links in the system. Bernard Richter, is it Richter? Rieder, yeah. So there's a researcher who works with Hugo. He told me that they have written a expansion service themselves, which with quite impressive processing rate. And he did say that if we wanted, we could make use of that. So we could potentially replace that, use that and replace the Bitly URL expansion service. And I think then at least we don't have this restriction. And we mentioned that it doesn't go back and collect historical tweets. That is a serious restriction. I think you can only sort of collect forward, not going backwards. And also, for something which gives you that little, do we really need two tools? So, but in a way, I'm quite glad that we are taking a phased approach to this, so that we are, evaluating or assessing before we put in more investment in developing the tool. So I guess I would like to hear what you guys have to say, if that's okay. So, Clement, yeah? Sorry.
Well, I had some comments. First on the cost-benefits ratio, from what I heard from my curator, because I did not really use it, but I have people in my team that reviewed it. Basically, what I understand is you cannot really create collections only with Twitter bank. Just because you are at the end to do a collection, you need, even if it's a event collection, you need a collection policy, and it's not, this tool is not enough. But also for highly event-related collections, it has a shortcoming that it's due to the fact that it uses Twitter to send us a lot of news articles, which are not of interest for us because basically we already archive those news websites every day. So it's useless to have Le Monde or Figaro. But
Absolutely.
yes,
And you don't have to go through the hassle of selecting.
yes.
It's just there.
But on the other hand, it's I think the cost benefit ratio, the cost ratio is rather low because you put some keywords and so on, and you have very quickly results. So the cost is not very heavy, and it may be very useful either to start with something very fast, or to check that you did not forget any important website, which may arrive even in big collection, big projects that we did, and when there was some important websites, and there were several curators selecting websites, and the website was so important that everybody was convinced that it was already selected. So having this kind of warning from Twitter saying this in the list of top 10 or top 20 important websites, so you need to check if we, at least we have the 20 most important websites identified by Twitter. So from this point of view, the cost is very low, and the benefit is not enough to build an entire collection, but it's a very good reminder.
Yeah. So, but I have the feeling that you're talking about cost in terms of human resources. I'm more talking about the sort of machine resources in the background needed to support this.
Yes, it depends on who is actually providing the service, which is the second part on which I about the Twitter survey compared to argument. So because actually currently you are hosting the service, the survey.
Yeah.
So in fact, yes, it's a cost for you. So for PNF, the cost is very low from machine processing sense. And it's also a question compared to Arcomen because Twitter is open source.
Yes.
And so the idea is that every institution install it in as its own tool. Well, it's a question. Do you want to offer BL offers this service for anybody interested, or you offer the tool and then the people install it on their own environment? And it's also a question compared to Arcomen because I did not ask Julien if the tool itself is open source or if it's just a service
certain that
offered
it's not,
by
to be honest
Arcomen.
with you.
So it's very different from this point of view.
I know. You have raised the question which I want to raise to the IPC, because this is something we're doing as a part of the project. We're happy to keep it running for, I don't know, Andy, till end of this calendar year that we want to take a pause and review
It
this.
doesn't really have any cross-user security, and I think technically we're probably right to the edge of Twitter API's terms of service. So, yeah.
We can keep it running for a bit, but there's no intention for this to
And also, there's development and maintenance stuff as well.
Sorry?
It's not just the cost of running it, there's the development and maintenance stuff.
Yeah. So we can still keep it running for a bit, but if you ask me, I don't think Andy and myself have the appetite to commit to a permanent presence of this service, unless, I think IIPC, I've submitted the report, I've not received feedback yet. So as the funding body, IPC needs to tell us if we, I feel that we have done what we said we would do for the project. I think collectively this workshop is helpful as well. Where we're going with this, do people want us, is the end of this calendar year sort of okay? I think so. If nobody's, uses it, then it's not much point. We can install it, and Nicholas' local system if she uses it. So what do you think? Would you have a requirement for this to be up and running?
I would not say that's a need.
In that case, then we don't
Because,
want
we were living with what we have in difference. But,
widely, as we suggested by researchers and all that, my gut feeling is that we need to do a bit of more work. This itself, as a state, it's in now. I mean, throughout, not just front end. I think there's some back end issues. For example, the expansion there. Some improvement. If improvement need to take place.
Well, from a researcher point of view, it would be very nice with the export option because actually this data is very relevant.
But I'm pretty sure that does break into terms of service.
Okay.
I don't think you can just. This is why you kind of have to install it yourself.
Yeah.
And even that's a bit. I'm pretty sure it just says, you can do analysis and stuff, but you can't give us the tweets you take to or something when you start to figure out
And also,
so if we send a service that mines tweets, and that's the instrument, right? I'm assuming it's both, so they've got files.
So you're actually.
I'll have to.
This is quite on the edge of that term.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's the tweets. No, it's files.
So you're suggesting that we're exporting the tweets, not just the URLs. There will be problems with tweeting.
What I'm interested in is this report where you have the URLs in collection, and I'm looking at it right now. It said it has like 3 columns: URL, tweeter, and the tweet, because then you can start.
I think that if you start exporting or giving out tweets, I think there might be some issues with Twitter.
But it's great that it actually stores all these tweets, right? Because I can see that.
It doesn't mean that you can give it away.
Okay.
There are some certain content you can possess, but distribution.
But it's okay if a researcher sets up tweet spraying for his own artist, you could say.
Yes.
I imagine. I would have to check.
So we just had Julianne joining us. Julianne, do you want to come up? Oh, you'll just sit there. So you have seen his presentation yesterday. If you have questions to ask Julianne, now you've seen 2 systems. He's here. And Julianne, just very quickly, this is an evaluation version. Big differences, key differences with yours is that we use the Twitter API. We don't archive a tweet. We're just after the URLs embedded in the tweet relevant to the search term. We expand them, and the slides we just put up were the sort of the set of issues we're discussing. And in a way, we haven't. I don't think there's a strong consensus or a certainty about the validity of this approach, which warrants more investment in this. So,
critically, you're doing some kind of network analysis of to identify individuals associated with the top end users from different languages.
do that.
So I think one major difference is that you're doing some kind of network analysis to identify individuals associated with the topic, and we're not doing that at all. Mining terms.
So actually I just recently checked Twitter, that's I apologize for that. So I think with the service we are addressing the same problem, which is we want to find the relevant content not after archiving tweets. Unfortunately, this is forbidden, definitely forbidden. I think when we come into this territory, one of the key things is to actually understand that it's different from the web in the sense that we have, how do you say, péage, like on the roads where you need to pay.
Yeah.
Call these things all over the place. Toll, yeah, toll gates all over the place, right? Which is, really annoying. We are just getting into understanding fully the economics of that, but I think that maybe at the end of the day, for the type of use we have to do as archivists to find content, relevant content, maybe it wouldn't be that expensive to actually go through the toll gates. At some point, it's quite likely we'll have to do, okay? The Twitter API, for instance, allows you something like 400 requests per hour or something like that. So with the system in demo mode as we are just now, we are reaching these limits very quickly with a few campaigns. Of course, we're tweaking, we are maybe over-checking some parameters and we could adjust that somehow, but otherwise, you are already reaching the limits from Twitter, and there's limits in the API calls you can make, there are limits in what you can do with the content further down the road. Yeah. So I think maybe one thing to understand, and that's something we can report about in a few weeks or months, is what are the costs implied with with the toll gates all over the place. The other aspect is I think we are okay when we use it for finding URLs according to the terms of services. At the moment we're okay, let's say. We'll see how it goes further, because basically they're turning uglier and uglier as they get more and more control over their user community, basically. So they're being increasing the control they have on the content more and more, and there's no reason to think they would decrease over time. So we'd better be ready for the worst in regards to that. So the other part, which I think is at least what we try to do, is we try to make it not Twitter dependent. We need to mine and troll the other social network systems somehow, because there's other places where you can actually find direction for content, some are actually more open, and some serve different purpose. I mean, Twitter is really geared toward the the flow, the instantaneous, and so on and so forth, where some have a larger and longer term view, and we want to get into these as well. So the idea with this version of Archive.net is basically to provide a large range of tools so that you can create your campaign with in different scenarios using different tools and different mining techniques. So that's the reason why we wanted to have the intelligence, I would say, of the filtering and the analysis done by ourselves on our side, rather than relying directly on the API. So I guess you have had this experience when you rely on the API directly. Basically, you throw a hashtag and you see what comes out. You have lots of spam. People can use hashtag.
And also, I think both Andy and Clement independently raise a very valid point. Because we noticed that the expanded URLs or discovered URLs point to news sites mostly. But if someone is already crawling the news pages daily, if you see what I mean. Yeah.
But at least making further verification on the page themselves is very important. Besides, you can apply some different strategy when you reach this point, because in cases you would consider actually that only this content item is relevant, so they are if in an hypertext tree somehow, whereas in some other cases you would like to actually go an upper level to maybe the blog site entirely altogether, because for a collection point of view, there's another thing we need to consider, is from an access point of view later, all these very little piece of content completely disconnected and disunited, would they make sense? So maybe at least for some of them, we need to reconstruct capture the upper level of, for instance, the entire blog site, for instance, because otherwise it doesn't make sense for lots of application. I mean, I think we're very special in this use case compared to other people who leverage these APIs, because all of them mostly are, marketing, brand, content analysis, and these kind of things. Well, they don't care much about this kind of thing. So I think we are pretty special in the sense, like, as the first results we are seeing, we see a very relevant content, and we are able to filter, because we have been able to filter it out, and then also because we are able to rank it. So I would say for the moment, I think the spam problem is being dealt with using this system. But still, at the end of the day, we end up with lots of small pieces. So what we want to do next is understand if there would be strategy whereby an archivist would be able to determine which condition would actually go and take the level of, or the surrounding environment, because there are real crawlers at the end which do like heritrix. Basically, you can figure out your scoping. So for us, we have to set up the strategies which are relevant. That is, and I don't know which they are, because we've not used it as much. It's the first time we got into a point where we get a system like that, which is really producing hundreds of URLs, and you have to understand if you can use it directly, or if you want to, add a further strategy down the road.
I just want to ask you, I think people here want to know as well, so where you are with the tool and how you're going to release it, the terms under which you're going to release it.
Okay, yes. So currently this is a very first beta stage which is going to open. It's alpha, I would say now, so it's going to be open to beta. The way we run it, for the idea for them, it's not something we can deliver as a software, of course, because it's dependent on lots of other infrastructural services that we have down the road and so on and so forth. So it's very much integrated. However, I think it could be something relevant to expose that as a service, so that institutions who have their own archiving capability can at least, I don't know, set up the campaign and organize the collection campaign, and then get a list of seats on a, I don't know, daily basis or whatever basis they like actually. So it can help them significantly in the finding and acquisition phase, I would say. Because I think, I don't know how you feel actually by the way about that, because we've had this experience on campaign where you're really frustrated about your capacity to find the relevant content. So I don't know if that's something you find as well. It depends maybe on your policy of archiving. So I think we could set this up as a service where you have, it's also part of our SaaS archiving service, which is called archive.net. But you may or may not want to use the archiving part of the service. However, maybe we'll think, and I'm interested actually to know if there's interest here. We know there's interest in research groups to use this kind of tools, and this could be a subscription tools where you have your space, maybe your group workspace, to have several librarians or archivists or researchers working in a team, setting a campaign together, figuring out whether they run, define, and so on and so forth, and then exporting seed lists.
I don't know if you've thought about this. If you set this up as a part of your service offerings and take a subscription model, I'm assuming that there's a charge or cost related. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. It's good to understand. Yeah. Any questions to Julianne?
Who wants to be a beta tester?
Yeah, who wants to be a tester?
We'll send a mail maybe next week so that people in the IPC community can.
Yeah. So is anybody actually on the IPC list, members list here? Larry, is there a way you get them on the list? No. Anybody else which is not on the IPC distribution list? So if you could speak to Mary afterwards.
And there's also the IPC creators list.
Yeah, there are lists.
the main difference is that the members list is supposed to be for members.
Curators are supposed to be curators.
Yes. And while curators may be also used by external researchers, for example, but members is the members.
Okay.
So I think what we have to figure out is the cost of the subscription, because we have to figure out, for instance, the cost of the toll gates.
Yes.
And we, of course, factor the development cost, because this is developed by us. And industrial and so on and so forth. So I can't really tell you at this point, but there will be a cost to that.
Okay. Thank you, Julia. Thank you very much. Okay. What we'll do now, we'll probably go back to the collections we set up and see if there's was collected anything. Okay, so we have picked up 28. Where else there? Let's have a look. Some, I mean, I can see some. Maybe. That's in the money. Should take a parent.
We should probably take off from the search terms. I'm curious, how does it collect these trees from which criteria? Because social terms can be, how do you put in relevance into collecting?
That's
The
not
tool
done
is
there.
the only relevance is in links that appear more often.
Okay.
For example,
Okay, so
there's no
that's
link-based or term-based relevance.
all right. Yeah.
Because you don't even get that from the API.
No.
You give it terms and they give you the things that they can map those terms, so you don't get any insight into the
You don't know, it's a big
Okay,
so
black
you
box.
understand the terms, so it's quite
So, okay, so you have to use
Yeah.
You see, so who said that we should take out the memento? I think that's a sensible.
I suggested we remove the memento because else we will try maybe to narrow down the.
Yeah, because everything, I just haven't really looked at this.
Is that the term momentum to another actual collection? Because there's a lot of tweets saying momentum worry of
That's interesting.
I'll
Do you want me to do that?
I could do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'll remove this. Yeah.
so, you
I'll just remove the memento from.
Okay.
This is